So what attracted me to the opera Lakmé? The first thing that attracted me to the opera Lakmé was the beautiful, lush score. I heard it, of course, many times. I heard the duet, I should say, many times, the famous duet from the opera. And sort of curiosity got a hold of me, and I decided at some point that I wanted to listen to the whole thing. So while I was listening to it, I started envisioning sort of an exotic staging of the piece, involving all the different Indian cultural aspects, the temple rites that happen, and all this just caught my interest. So that was what got me to deciding to do it. And then obviously I thought it would be a very good thing for us to bring to St. Louis audiences. It's not something that's been done here in a very long time, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to present this show.
My first impression of the music of Lakmé, the first time I heard the opera all the way through, was that this is an incredibly tuneful score. There's a great tune really waiting around every corner. Of course, most people have heard the famous flower duet that British Airways used in its commercials for a long time. And a lot of people might also be familiar with Lakmé's great tour de force aria, the Bell Song from the second act. But there's a lot more to this opera in terms of great tunes. Lakmé herself has two more great arias, one in the first and one in the last act. She has three duets with the tenor. The tenor himself has two arias. There's a beautiful, very charming quintet in the first act for the British characters, and of course there's some great chorus music, since naturally Delibes was actually a chorus master at the Paris Opera, so he really cared a lot about chorus music. Now, the other very noticeable thing about the music of Lakmé is what we call the exoticism. Delibes, like most composers and other artists in late 19th century Europe, was fascinated with the East and everything that he was reading and hearing about the colonies and all the art that was being brought over from there. And Lakmé takes place in India, and although Delibes had never been to India himself, he tried to write music that would recreate this atmosphere, this exotic and mystical atmosphere that he imagined India to have. Some of the devices that he uses to create this exotic music are, for example, the open fifths that he uses in the first scene of the opera, where there is this religious ceremony taking place at the home of Nilakantha, the Indian priest, and he has this open fifths played by the low instruments in the orchestra and sung by the low male voices, and that immediately creates this impression of sort of primitive ancestral mysticism. Then he uses the pentatonic scale in the Bell Song, and we now mostly associate the pentatonic scale with Chinese music, but back in the time of Delibes, it was an exotic element that could be applied to all Eastern type of cultures. And he also uses some more subtle devices, mostly in the harmony. He plays with changing between the major and minor mode, and he also uses a lot of harmonies that are in relationships of thirds. Now, those sound exotic to our ear, but they also are related to some of the developments that Debussy brought to music a few decades later, and musicologists say that Debussy was definitely influenced by Delibes. I really enjoy working with the Union Avenue Opera Orchestra. It's a real treat for a number of reasons. First of all, the skill level in that pit is very high. There are some really experienced and really talented musicians, and it's just such a pleasure to work with them. perhaps the most important and the most unique thing is that this group is not just a group of professional musicians doing a job. Everybody in there is invested in the success of the company. It's personal for everybody. And that's pretty rare, because you're working with a group of people that have a real connection with the institution and that take really great pride in being there, and the music that they get to play for Union Avenue Opera is really a very important part of their lives.
So the designers for this show are Patrick Huber and Fleia Davenport, and they've had a very good time putting together an interesting design scheme that first of all takes on colonial India. The costumes are basic colonial apparel for the English soldiers and for the English women that are there. And then of course we have the lush, beautiful, exotic costumes of the Indian people that we see in the different scenes that involve them. The overall theme of the set is one of a dark, luscious green forest that's painted on a backdrop, and that is accented in different acts by different things that are happening in front of it. And also, of course, lights by Kim Clearman come into play very strongly into this piece. So in the first act, we are set in the temple. It opens in the temple with very mysterious sort of lighting. The big statue of Ganesh, the Indian deity to which they pray, is center stage in front of this backdrop, and all the people enter, and they go through the different temple rites of the scenery and of the opening act. Act 2 then is the marketplace. The marketplace takes place in the front of the stage, on the thrust of the stage it's called, and it is a very chaotic Indian market. It's supposed to be representative of what something actually would look like. There's the colonial soldiers as well who are policing the market, trying to get it to come to an end, and then in the midst of this, Englishmen come into the crowd and get separated. The governess gets separated from the rest of the crowd. So this all plays out there, and during this act we also of course have the famous bell song where Lakmé sings to the crowd as her father tries to draw out Gérald so he can seek his revenge on him. Place in a little hut in the jungle. This is a place that only Lakmé really knows about, and again we've used some of the same scenic elements that we used in Act 1 and reconfigured them to make them appear to be secluded in an isolated, beautiful canopied jungle spot. Obviously Gérald has been stabbed by Lakmé's father, and she has brought him here to try to heal him. So in the end, we get to see Lakmé die after eating the datura tree, flower I should say, and it's a very beautiful, touching ending.